Brock Boeser, Tyler Toffoli 2.0.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be starting the deep dive on some of the top pieces, top free agents in this class. We're going to be looking at the Vancouver Canuck forward Brock Boeser. So we're going to be digging into kind of what makes Brock Boeser tick, what kind of his stats, all that fun stuff. Discuss if he's too much like Tyler Toffoli, and then get into what a projected contract would look like and if it would make sense for the San Jose Sharks. So before we get into all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV locked on to learn more. So the other day we did the full here's all the major free agents, right? And we're going to be starting to kind of highlight. We'll start with, some of the big names, which will get their own shows, right? Guys like Brock Boeser, Mitch Marner, Aaron Ekblad. Those guys are going to kind of get full shows because those are the top end pieces. And then as we get kind of into it, we'll do more focused on other guys who I think are fits and such. But I wanted to start with Brock Boeser because he definitely does feel like a legitimate potential Shark candidate as they go through this rebuild, right? And as they start to add pieces here, because again, I cannot harp this enough. The Sharks have to spend some money this offseason, right? You have $40 million in cap space. You have to spend at least $20 million just to get to the cap floor. So the Sharks have to spend money, and you can't just throw out a bunch of $2 million contract. You can't just throw out $2 million contracts, right? I do believe it would be smart for the Sharks to try to find kind of one of these big ticket item guys that you think can still be part of your, add to your core and maybe try to kind of lock them up, just kind of like Tyler Toffoli. So let's get to know Brock Boeser a little bit. So Boeser was a former first-round pick of the Vancouver Canucks, was 23rd overall in the 2015 NHL draft. Went to North Dakota, Minnesota kid, Minnesota kid, went to North Dakota, very Midwest hockey background, right? For him. He is 6'1", 208 pounds, right-handed shot. So something to kind of keep in mind there is the Sharks have acquired a few more right-handed. Remember back in the day when they had no right-handed shots? Now you have guys like Will Smith, Tyler Toffoli. You have some more right-handed shots on this team compared to what you did even a few years ago. But this last season for the Canucks, he played under the last year of his deal at 3 years at $6.65 million AAV. So he is, of course, expected to get a raise, or looking to get a raise. In 75 games, he had 25 goals, 25 assists, 145 shots on goal, which I had to triple check, because that seems very low. We'll put a pin in that, but still. Averaged 18-10 time on ice, Corsi for 49.22, goals for 46.75. So when he was on the ice, the Vancouver Canucks took 49.22% of the shots. And when he was on the ice, at 5-on-5, the Canucks scored 46.75% of the goals. Looking at his evolving hockey card, Played first line minutes, of course, 53 percentile first line player, 70 percentile offense, 16 percentile defense. Like, you don't sign Brock Boeser to help kind of shut things down defensively. Played a ton on the power play, not a PK guy. Expected goals above replacement was really good. Actual goals above replacement was not so great. And we'll get to that, where it feels like there might be some meat on the bone there potentially for Brock Boeser when it comes to scoring goals. Looking at his hockey stat card, +3 offensive rating. They have a much better defensive rating for him at +7, and that rating of +1, which is kind of like, 60th percentile in all those categories. So usage, he got good offensive deployments, faced tough quality, and he averaged top 6 forward. It was kind of his usage when you look at kind of, look at Dauber prospects and how they kind of look at it. His goals for per 60 minutes was like 2.087, goals allowed per 60, 2.37. His Corsi for during that time, per 60 minutes. So they averaged about 55 shot attempts. They gave up about 59 shot attempts when he was on the ice. So again, like, the Canucks were very much like, if Quinn Hughes is on the ice, this was a good team. When they weren't, not a great team. So what Brock Boeser does do well, though, is he helps to drive offense. Like, not a great, like, puck carrier. Like, you don't want him kind of carrying the puck, and he's going to do some things well in the defensive zone and not, but he's very good at driving offense, creating offense with passing, and he's a legitimate goal scorer. Kind of going back over the last couple seasons, Brock Boeser, this, like I said, this year he had 25 goals. The year before he had 40, which is a career high. Year before that, he had 18 goals in 74 games, which was like one of his worst seasons. You look at, then he had 23, 23, 29, 30, 23, 23, 16, 26, and 29. So he's usually good for you 20 to 25 goals is kind of where you would kind of put Brock Boeser. The year he had 23 goals, like, in the COVID year. That year he had 49 points. The year they got shut down early from COVID, the 1920 season, he had 45 points in 57 games. So if he probably played the full season there, he's probably getting closer to that 20 goals, 50 points type of performance. The 22-23 season, he had 74 games. He had 18 goals. I do believe that's also the season where his father passed away, so you can kind of give him a little bit of an excuse there, right, of just kind of going through all that stuff. And then he came back with a monster season where he put up 40 goals, 33 assists, and 73 points in 81 games that year. Averages, like, his shooting percentage is like a career average of like 14.1. His this last season he was at 17.2. The season before at 19.6. Did have that year where he only scored 18 was like around 10%. But this is a guy who is pretty good at putting the puck in the back of the net, and especially this last season, where he only had 145 shots. He's normally kind of closer to 200, upper 190s, 200 shots. This year he only took 145 shots. So you think maybe if his volume goes up, maybe the shooting percentage does go down a little bit. But I think it's safe to say Brock Boeser, 20 to 25 goal scorer, I think, for the next few seasons is kind of what his outlook is for him, right? And, we're going to talk about Tyler Toffoli here, but I do think it's a pretty fair comp when looking at him as a potential free agent. Toffoli much more kind of decorated and much more consistent scorer, right? Toffoli having, put up 30 the last couple seasons, doing it with a bunch of different teams, like different circumstances. But again, you also have to kind of keep in mind Vancouver, they're not a normal franchise, right? It's always something with Vancouver, right? This season, you look at the drama in the locker room between Pedersen and JT Miller. Like, it's always something with the Canucks, right? So maybe for a guy like Boeser, who's basically said, like, I'm out, in all intents and purposes, has said, I'm out. Maybe just something a little bit more stable and low key compared to Vancouver might make a ton of sense for him. So we're going to look at how he compares to Tyler Toffoli. We're going to dig into kind of some of the NFL or NHL edge stats here. Look at kind of how their skating is very similar, where they score the goal, like, and why. Kind of discuss, is it too much repetitiveness between the two, or is it just better for the Sharks to have players who can put the puck in the net? So we'll discuss that here in just 1 second. Ever check your bank account, wonder where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, or if you're like me, you're just trying to buy snacks for your kids? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And it's perfect for managing money with your partner. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, before we continue, we just discussed the kind of overlap between Toffoli and Brock Boeser. I do, of course, want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you haven't yet, perfect time to subscribe, as we're going to be digging into free agents. We've already started with this episode. We'll have you covered for next week's draft lottery. We have plenty of draft coverage coming up. And again, the Sharks have $1 bajillion to spend and a top 3 pick in this year's draft. So great time to be a Sharks fan. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can subscribe on YouTube as well. Okay. Brock Boeser versus Tyler Toffoli, right? Tyler Toffoli, great signing for the San Jose Sharks this season. Came in and did exactly what you wanted to do, right? Help, one, be a veteran leader in the locker room. Two, also scored and was a huge asset, led the team in goals this season. While I don't think Toffoli will continue to lead the team in goals in the future, hello, Macklin Celebrini, I do think Toffoli is going to be one of the Sharks' best scoring options over the next 3 years of his contract. And, Will Smith will continue to develop, and Macklin Celebrini and whomever else, the Sharks sign and enter the fray will hopefully continue to add. But the hope here, right, with you do sign Brock Boeser, is that you're adding more scoring, because the Sharks, they suck at scoring. They need more scoring options, right? It can't just be Toffoli, Celebrini, Smith, Macklin, and hopefully you get some more guys pitching in, right? You need to, as Wu-Tang Clan once said, you need to diversify your bonds. But Toffoli and Brock Boeser are very similar. Looking at their NHL Edge, which is a really cool tool where you can kind of compare, a lot of their stats when it comes to skating speed and shot speed, and you can look at where they score and all this fun stuff. It's a really fun tool. And I, looking at Toffoli and Boeser, it's really similar. Both these guys, not the quickest skaters. So Toffoli, Boeser, both ranked below the NHL edges are very nice. If you're below 50%, they put you in that 50% category. When it comes to neither Toffoli or Boeser had 22-mile-an-hour bursts. Boeser had 44 bursts that are between 20 and 22 miles per hour. Toffoli, he had 38. Boeser and Toffoli kind of has similar amount of speed bursts between 18 to 20 miles per hour. Toffoli did have a slight edge. So neither one of these guys are known for their skating and their speed, which is okay. Right. And we saw, Toffoli kind of being the trail man a lot in the with Macklin Celebrini, kind of being that third forward makes sense, right? You go let the young kids, Macklin, Celebrini, Will Smith, you let them go do their thing and you be the old man and hang out in the back. Makes sense, right? But that's kind of very similar. Brock Boeser, very similar. Even looking at they have this cool spider web here that shows kind of like where they're at. Boeser, much higher shooting percentage, kind of similar amount of goals. Boeser, much higher shooting percentage. They kind of skate the same amount. Boeser, much stronger shot than Toffoli. Toffoli, more shots on goal. So where they also score, both these guys like to get in front of the net and score goals there. And this is the area where I'm actually okay with maybe having that redundancy between Boeser and Toffoli. Again, Toffoli, 233 shots on goal, had 30 goals, we'll just say 13% shooting percentage. Boeser, 145 shots on goal, 25 goals, 17% shooting percentage. But both these guys get in front of the net, put their stick down. They're able to put their stick down and score some greasy goals that way, which is fine, especially when you have a little bit smaller forwards, right? Macklin Celebrini, not the biggest dude, and especially as an 18-year-old. Will Smith, 19-year-old. Again, neither one of these guys are the biggest dude. It's not like Toffoli and Boeser are, but that crafty veteran of knowing where to go in front of the net. I'm going to get in the right spot, and I'm going to be able to put it in front of the net, right? And if you have guys like that, and you have Macklin, who's great behind the net and finding guys in front of the net, having another option of a guy that can kind of park in front of the net and give you, right, that shot, give you another legitimate power play shot, not the worst thing in the world. So while there is a lot of redundancy, these are like legitimate skills that the Sharks need, right? You need more guys who can kind of get to the front of the net and be able to score some dirty goals. And you just need more shooters on the power play, right? How often the power play just kind of dancing around, getting the puck moving just to try to get it back to Macklin Celebrini so he can take a shot. Now, what if you had Celebrini and Boeser on the opposite face-off dots, and that gives you two legitimate shooters there, where whoever's running the power play is moving around, and then it's not just get the puck to Celebrini. It's now you have a legitimate option in Boeser that you have to account for. It's also going to open things up for Macklin Celebrini, and you're going to probably get more goals in the front because especially if you can find a net front presence type of player. I think it opens up your options here. So while I get the concern, right? We already have Tyler Toffoli at home. Why do we want to go get Tyler Toffoli 2.0? Another one, Boeser, who is 28 and Toffoli is 33. And I'm not worried about like Toffoli's game aging. I do think I think for the next couple seasons with Toffoli, he should continue to be Tyler Toffoli, right? But I do think with Boeser, if you're looking at, and we'll get to the contract here in a little bit, if you're worried about his, his contract turning poorly, I think you just point to Tyler Toffoli and say, why can't he just kind of be like little, maybe not as many goals as Tyler Toffoli, but why can't he kind of just be on the same path as Tyler Toffoli and gives the Sharks two guys, so you can, especially if you're going to have Will Smith be a center. Okay, let's give Brock Boeser to Will Smith, right? And you can kind of have your offense look the same on lines 1 and 2. And then as Boeser maybe continues to age down a little bit, right? And guys, Quentin Musty, Haltonen, Igor Chernyshov, whomever you sign, etc. Then if Boeser is like on your third line, or like if he's like a middle 6 forward, yeah, it might be a little bit older, but you feel like that at least has, I think it has a potential for his contract to age decently. So what does that contract look like? And spoiler, it's kind of big. So we're going to look at what his projected contract would look like and if it would make sense for the Sharks in this moment. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports, College Football 25, to Call of Duty. It's as easy as you stream your favorite shows. And if you already have the console, Fire TV Stick device is more affordable and easier to travel with, especially if you're on the go or you have kids. That way you can have games wherever you plug in. Plus, of course, you can still stream all your favorite shows from Netflix, YouTube, Disney Plus, wherever. They've got you covered there. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. All right, before we continue, we finish up with what a Brock Boeser contract potentially looks at, and if it makes sense for the Sharks, right? I do want to, of course, thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay, it's a lot of money. So we don't have I do like Evolving Hockey's. There's a little bit better. I do like their model, but it's still a very good model. AFP Analytics, their mid-season extension projections. So they did this. It's January. So again, we don't know kind of where this contract is eventually going to end up, but it still gives us a base to work on. So Brock Boeser, who is a free agent, if you are signing with a new team, the most amount of years you can sign for is 7. If you're re-signing with your own team, you can sign for 8, just as a friendly reminder. But Brock Boeser, he is projected to sign a 7-year deal at a little over $9 million cap hit. Projected cap space is basically right at the 95.5% or 95.5 million, which is what the cap is going to be. Is that it's basically a 9.5 projected cap hit. So the contracts that they kind of compare it to the most here. Jeff Skinner, when he signed his deal with the Buffalo Sabres, signed an 8-year deal at $9 million. Philip Forsberg signed an 8-year deal at $8.5 million. Travis Konechny signed his 8 years at 8.7. Pavel Buchnevich signed his at 6 at 8. And then Max Pacioretty signed a 4-year deal at 7. So those are the comparable contracts, right? And some of those worked out, and some of those did. Like the Jeff Skinner deal clearly didn't work out for the Sabres, right? Philip Forsberg, pretty good player, worked out for Nashville. So and with free agents, right? There's always going to be that risk of, is this guy going to work in our system, et cetera, et cetera. But it is a lot of money, right? And I know Sharks, there's going to be fans that are like, that is too long, et cetera, et cetera. We just got our cap clean, right? We just cleaned up this mess. Why do you got to go make another mess? Again, you can't just sign 10 guys to $2 million deals. You're going to have to spend money on somebody. So I haven't made the decision right now if I think the Sharks should do it or not. I'm just presenting the case. Okay. $9.5 million. We'll just say 9. Just make things even. We'll just say $9 million. 7 years at $9 million. Okay. Whatever it ends up being. We know he turned down a deal with the Vancouver Canucks. They offered him 5 years at 8.5, I believe, is what he was offered from the Canucks. 5 years, $8 million. That's what the deal apparently was, that he was offered earlier this season. So, for Boeser, like the Sharks aren't going to be the only one, right? There's a ton of teams with a ton of cap space this offseason. So these contracts, like there is going to be legitimate bidding wars for these players. And that is part of the thing of free agency, right? Is if you want guys, you're not the only person out there, especially this year where you have the first year where you have a big jump in cap space. Um, I I do know, right? You have to add some pieces around Macklin, Celebrini, and Will Smith, right? You can't again run out the same dudes and be like Tyler, Ty Dellandrea, Barkley Goodrow, what like whoever else play on the wing with Will Smith, right? We did the thing the other day where we looked at we looked at the projected roster, like starting lineups, and Will Smith does not have a winger, right? We need to get legitimate second line wingers in there. While yes, the Sharks do have big contracts coming up, right? William Macklin, you have Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith. All these guys are going to need big contracts at some point. You're also going to be having money coming off the books, right? Between Vlasic, who's entering the last year of his deal, and kind of just budgeting Vlasic's money. Let's just put that towards William Macklin. If Logan Couture's money will be coming off in a couple seasons, right as Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini both need to be paid. Just put that money towards one of those guys. You still have one of the cleanest cap sheets. All right. And I don't think if you sign Brock Boeser to a 9-year or a 7-year deal at $9 million, that doesn't keep you from still being aggressive, because you do have so many cheap contracts on your book. Like the Sharks have so many entry level contracts that there are guys who are RFAs, or like guys where you can play with the cap and kind of run those RFA years and stuff, right? Even Alex Wenberg, right? He's entering the last year of his deal. Does he get re-signed? Maybe, maybe not. Or you probably maybe looking to upgrade your 3C or position for a guy who will be 30, right? Grunstrom, Dellandrea both come off the books this season, right? After this year. And even if you start to get some contributions from guys like Musty and Chernyshev and stuff, like those guys are going to be cheap contracts for the next several years. Like you have to start spending money somewhere. So, yeah, it's a lot. Like 9, especially with the way the Sharks have operated. We've heard Mike Greer say, like, I'm not really in the business to sign these long-term deals, but it's still an avenue I think the Sharks should explore, because I do think that Brock Boeser would give you more legitimate scoring on a team that sucks at scoring right now. So, and give you a legitimate top 6 winger to pair with Will Smith, right? You had a lot of success with Macklin, Celebrini, and Tyler Toffoli. And I know Smith and Celebrini are different style players, but trying to find a legitimate scoring winger to play with Will Smith and include also create for Will Smith, because we know Will Smith has a really good shot as well. And we know Brock Boeser, he can, looking at his all 3 zones cards, he is a great at setting up guys as well. So, yes, I'm not going to give it like what I would do right now, because again, we're building towards this big kind of off season, what like kind of master like or kind of plan, right? Of like, this is what I would do. But Boeser is, I think, someone you have to, if you're Mike Greer, you have to think long and hard about if he's interested in coming here. And again, maybe just going to a franchise where not everything is a big deal, like the Vancouver Canucks, right? Because everything with the Vancouver Canucks always feels like a big deal. So we'll continue to do these deep dives. Like I said, we'll look at the big names like Mitch Marner, like Ekblad, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get some of these big names, and then we'll start kind of doing episodes where it's like, okay, here's 3 guys that I think would make a lot of sense, et cetera, like as we get a little bit closer to free agency and stuff. So, but yeah, that's the Brock Boeser deep dive. So I'm interested. I'm sure the comments will be civil about Brock Boeser. This is the worst idea you've ever had, JD, to why is Brock Boeser not on my team right now, JD? And there'll be no in between. So, because that's what we do. But we'll continue to dive into these. Like I said, we'll probably do Mitch. Or I think I have Mitch Marner scheduled here soon, and I do have Aaron Ekblad scheduled as well. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts, and of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.